So next, we're going to welcome back Stani from Aave. He's going to talk about a bit of that vision stuff. Welcome back.
Thanks, Kent. Do you hear me well, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I will start. So definitely, we're going to talk about the future of finance, and part of the future of finance is the Aave protocol, and I'm going to share a bit more like how Aave protocol works and how you could use it during this hackathon, and also how the protocol is governed and how you can participate. And if someone wants to come afterwards to discuss about anything, this is my handle here on the slide on Telegram as well. So if you look traditionally how lending has been in traditional sense, we have some sort of marketplace where we have borrowers and lenders, and they're matched together. So practically, this is the model of how the lending marketplaces work, such as, for example, peer-to-peer lending. And this is how actually Aave got started. So it was around 4.5 years when practically we created the first on-chain lending protocol, ETHLend. And the idea was there to practically match borrowers and depositors, depending what kind of yields they wanted to offer, and what kind of maturity for the loans they were interested in funding, and borrowers needed for finance. Now, kind of the model is more liquidity pool-based and liquidity protocol, in the sense that we kind of separated the depositors and borrowers, in the sense that depositors just come deposit and then they start to earn right away. And at the same time, as there's liquidity available, borrowers can come there and just draw liquidity. So what this allows the market participants to do is that you earn right away the interest, and also you have readily available liquidity. And this is now possible to do, especially because when you deposit into the protocol, your deposit becomes the collateral for your borrowings if you decide to borrow. And since those collaterals are becoming fairly liquid, you can actually pool those collaterals together and have this systemic risk approach, which actually allows the pooling model to work pretty well these days. And as a protocol, it practically means that in our protocol, you can deploy new markets, and to this date, we have deployed practically the main market that we have. So each market is practically a market of various assets that could be deposited. So asset reserves, and which asset could be used, for example, as a collateral to borrow against. And currently, we have the main market, where we have roughly 2 dozens of different kind of assets there, and mainly the main idea is that depositors are providing liquidity in form of stable coins. So practically, stable coins could be DAI, USDC, USDT, and then borrowers are usually supplying collaterals such as Ethereum, Aave, Link. Recently, we added, for example, Balancer. So there was a governance vote to add a new asset. And of course, interesting part is that not all of the funds are borrowed out. So because they are reserves, it actually means that only a portion of the reserve is borrowed out, which is pretty cool in the sense that you have constant liquidity. So you can deposit, let's say, DAI, and then withdraw it, let's say, 5 minutes or tomorrow. Or you could even swap the DAI into USDC and withdraw USDC from the USDC reserve. And the rest of the funds that is in the reserve, of course, they're not practically sleeping there, in the sense because we have this feature called flash loans, which allows to borrow all that liquidity for one Ethereum transaction for one particular kind of like one block execution. And I will go a bit later to what flash loan practically is and explain a bit further. And DeFi in general has been growing quite a lot. So like I would say, like most of the DeFi stuff is happening on Ethereum, and it doesn't come as a surprise because Ethereum has very developer-centric community. This is why we're all here in a hackathon or in general building different kinds of things. And what's cool about DeFi is that anyone can build the next Aave or practically new protocols, product services, and on top of the Aave protocol, or in general on top of DeFi, by consuming all of the protocols that there are in DeFi at the moment. And also, DeFi is just one part of Ethereum. There's plenty of other things happening, such as the NFT economy in gaming. And Aave has been growing as DeFi has been growing as well, and probably mostly because we're tapping with different kinds of communities that were a bit underserved. So there weren't many choices where you could use some particular governance token as a collateral and borrow against, and Aave was practically kind of like a empowering those communities with the protocol. And currently, the liquidity that we have, and we're basically talking about the market size. It's roughly on 5 billion, and the total locked value, what we have in the whole protocol, including the safety module, is somewhere between 5.5 billion worth of value. So practically the version 1 started last year, 2020 January, and we started from zero. So the growth has been quite exponential, and I think most of the growth started to happen during last year's so-called DeFi summer, where DeFi became the epicenter of crypto a bit, and kind of not only Ethereum's from DeFi, but also we saw like a lot of interest from outside Ethereum, and that was pretty fascinating. So yeah, we have so-called staking module as well, and it has pretty much now 1.5 billion worth of value staked. And the staking module is practically a way to transfer risk from the protocol to the Aave token holders that are staking to the safety module against other rewards, and they're practically backstopping the risk of the protocol. So if there is some sort of shortfall event, such as failed liquidation, exploit, those funds could be slashed up to 30% to cover that deficit. So it's kind of like a way to give back to the protocol by making risk-based decisions. So we have in the protocol various proposals of getting new assets listed, and every asset that is listed into the protocol is additional risk. And since the other community members are voting for these proposals, the safety module is a way to transfer the risk to the back to the community members. Yeah, so main features, I think what we will cover is the ability to earn from the protocol by the depositing. So pretty much if you're building some sort of yield aggregator or working with yields, probably the earn functionality is very interesting for you. And then of course there's the borrowing, and related to the borrowing against your collateral, there's the rate switching functionality. So we have different kind of interest rate formulas in the protocol. And then we have, of course, other interesting features such as the credit delegation, which I'll come a bit later, flash loans, and also collateral swaps as well. So there's quite a lot of interesting functions in the version 2 of Aave, which was launched a couple of months ago. So since the launch, we have had quite substantial traction. I mean, it indeed was a improvement, not just making it more efficient gas-wise and the architecture more simplified, but also kind of like there's interesting innovation within the version 2. And one of the innovations that I pretty much enjoy using is actually the collateral and deposit swap. So practically, when you deposit into the Aave protocol, let's say USDC, and you see that there is a higher yield on, for example, on DAI stablecoin. You can actually swap your deposit from USDC into DAI, and same way if you deposited, let's say, ETH, and you have borrowed something against ETH, let's say stablecoins, and you want to change your collateral from ETH to Aave or to BAL or something else, or even partially, you can actually do that with the collateral swap functionality. And related to the same functionality, you also have ability to close your loan position with your collateral, and that's pretty neat because if you borrowed some funds and you went to consume those funds, maybe you made an investment, or you just spend those funds in for example real life, you're able to still close your loan position with the value of the collateral. And practically the collateral swap, closing loan with the collateral, they're behind the scenes working with the flash loans. And of course we also tokenize the debt position. So previously we had tokenized deposits. So when you deposit into the protocol, let's say USDC, you get in return AUSDC, which is practically a certificate of what you deposited into the protocol, and those A tokens then increase in balance, and they're practically algorithmic interest-bearing stable coins. And if you send let's say AUSDC or A tokens to someone else, they still continue increasing in balance. So that's a very interesting payment currency, and especially if you're hacking something related to payments, these A tokens could be very good inspiration for you, or even you could integrate them somehow. And of course, the debt position is now tokenized as well. They're currently non-transferable, but there might be some interesting use cases that you could actually build upon. And of course, we have now the flash loans in batched functions as well. So when you're taking flash loan, you could actually flash borrow multiple currencies at the same time. And we upgraded the governance as well. So what's interesting is that if you're building governance functionality, dashboards during the hackathon, you could actually take inspiration from the Aave v2 governance. You can fork it, create something better, something cooler, or just use whatever you want to govern. Or you could actually build something interesting for the Aave DAO governance. And also what's interesting about the Aave v2 governance is that the delegations of the delegations are separated. So you can delegate separately voting power to protocol politicians and separately to the proposition power to, for example, developers who could actually are technically able to put a proposal on chain. That's very fascinating. Yeah, and of course we have the A token support for single approve and transfer. And so the main feature, what you probably will be building with Futures Finance is pretty much the earn functionality. So you can let others borrow funds from the protocol. Oh, sorry, you can actually earn, not borrow, but you can earn funds when you're depositing to the protocol, and you're earning practically immediately. And this is where the A tokens come in play. So when you deposit into the protocol, you get A tokens. So let's say if you deposit USDC, you get AUSDC, and since it increases in balance, it becomes this permissionless global savings account. And that's pretty interesting perspective, because you don't probably have yields to USD denominated yields, especially this high available globally. So there's some interesting things that could be built, and this is how kind of like DeFi changes quite a lot on how we see finance today in TradFi, traditional finance. So pretty much there is not that much of time to go all of the functionality, but the functionality is very simple. So you practically are selecting which pool you want to deposit. In this case, there's a DAI pool, the amount you want to deposit, and of course we have this function called balance off. So on behalf of, and this means that you can actually also deposit on behalf of someone else. So this might be quite interesting if you're building something. Yeah, and with the same way you actually withdraw the liquidity, and since there's usually excess liquidity, you can do it fairly at any point, unless there is a so-called bank run scenario. And then we have the borrow function. So you can basically convert your deposit into a collateral. So let's say you deposit one asset and you borrow another asset. So typical scenario is when you are long on particular cryptographic asset, but you might need liquidity, which basically means that you want to borrow against that collateral. So this is fairly simple functionality as well. Yeah, and here what's interesting about the borrow functionality is that you also can set the interest rate that you want to use, and in this case we're basically using the stable rate, which is practically a stable rate which isn't variable rate. So your rate is locked, and there is only one particular condition that your current stable rate might be rebalanced to a new market stable rate, which is practically if the whole pool is utilized and across the whole stable rate borrows in the protocol is above 25% in interest rate. And this is interesting in the sense that there's also the on behalf of function. So this allows you also to delegate the credit to someone else. So if you don't want to borrow yourself, which 70% of the protocol depositors aren't doing, you could actually delegate to your friend that could borrow behalf of you. You might have some sort of off-chain agreement or offline agreement on how additional interest rate could be paid, or you might just have some sort of smart contract vault that can collect delegations, and then that vault could do some sort of functionality and earn more funds in DeFi and then repay to the credit delegators. Yeah, and yeah, so this is quite fascinating. So why credit delegation is super cool and something that I'm very exciting, and I believe that we'll see a lot of products out of this. This is because like one way you could create this kind of like closed loop system. So if you delegate credit to a smart contract that, let's say, has just certain type of predefined functionality, let's say that smart contract can only supply liquidity to Uniswap or Balancer, and then especially in Balancer's case, kind of like provide fees and also the liquidity mining rewards, and then repaying back to the delegators. Kind of, you don't have this particular credit risk there. And also the second thing why I'm interested in this is that it's a kind of like a way for traditional finance to source liquidity from DeFi. So you could imagine at some point in the future, maybe the Aave DAO, the governance actually could whitelist certain borrowers that can borrow under collateralized. It could be individuals. It could be, for example, DeFi dad, or it could be institution from traditional finance, or OTC borrower, and that would be under collateralized loan. And you could add there different kinds of underwriting mechanisms, different credit ratings, or just connect it to the traditional finance. So that's why I'm very interested on seeing this functionality, even in this hackathon, but also in the future. Yeah. So flash loans. I think what's interesting about flash loans, I think some of you probably already know, they're quite popular these days, because what flash loans are allowing many to do is that you could actually borrow large amount of liquidity, practically the whole pool, and then use that liquidity to to whatever you want to do. And some of the applications of flash loans are quite fascinating. Let me show you. So this is just a collateral swap on Maker vaults. So practically Maker, you need to create a vault that you collateralize, and then you can mint stable coins. And then you need to close that vault yourself if you want to change the collateral type and sell it in between. But with flash loans, you could actually create this whole circle and do all those functionalities without actually returning the loan. And also you could do arbitrage. So without any capital, you could buy an asset from one exchange and sell it higher price on another one and keep profits. And yeah, so one last thing about the governance. So practically Aave has decentralized governance, and pretty much means that all the token holders can vote what kind of changes there will be in the protocol, new assets, contract upgradability, and so forth. But yeah, nothing much in terms of what I have today for you guys. There's a couple of examples I can share also later in Discord on what has been built previously, and that's about it. And here's some resources for you if you want to build on Aave, the future of finance.
Thank you, Stan. Yeah, great to get the latest and greatest on what you guys are iterating on. Quite a lot, it looks like. And it looks like you'll be right back for a panel. I think we just need to get you out of the virtual chat and then right back in for the following panel.
Sounds good.